All right, welcome to unCOMPlex, our October gathering. Um, and I came close to not recording this today because I know that around the state a lot of people are concerned with much more important topics today as Hurricane Milton threatens the West Coast. And our thoughts are certainly with all of those folks from literally from Big Bend all the way down to uh, Naples, south of Fort Myers. Our particular interest as an organization, of course, is somewhat focused on the threats to our team, which are primarily Tampa, St. Pete, and Fort Myers. Uh, but we're certainly concerned with the folks further inland, and of course on the West Coast when this thing punches back out into the Atlantic Ocean and does as it will. But I thought it was best to go ahead and proceed today. I don't think we'll have anyone tune in live, but if anyone comes in live, I'll be watching the participants. We'll be looking for questions. We're going to talk about a variety of things today that I think are important that are going on in the state of Florida in terms of workers' compensation. So, with that, I've got some items that I'm going to share. Um, and we're going to talk about some software updates. We're going to talk about some upcoming events, what's coming up soon. A general announcement is for November the 5th. November the 5th in the noon hour. We're going to have a meet and greet at the Orlando district office. Remember, the roundtable meet and greets were instigated, um, almost 2 years ago now, when Mr. Longo, Paulo Longo, was coming up on becoming the chair of the section, and with the Orange County contingency, started working on a meet and greet roundtable lunch for the Orlando community. That was met with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of praise, and as a result, we went on and did events like it over the next 18 months in Jacksonville, Fort Myers, Tampa, um, trying to think, uh, West Palm Beach, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Uh, seems like everywhere, Tallahassee, there's one missing. I don't know, it'll come to me. Um, oh, we didn't have one here in Paradise. That's disappointing. But the next one, November 5th, is in Orlando. We'd love to see you there. It's at the OJCC office. We're going to have a lunch provided by the workers' comp section of the Florida Bar. We're going to have an opportunity to discuss what's going on and talk about your questions, suggestions, ideas. And these events are always helpful in finding out what's working for practitioners and constituents and what is not. So I encourage you to come to that or send somebody from your firm or organization to that and get your questions answered, or at least get your questions asked. All right. What I want to show you, there's several things that I think are pretty important, and I'm trying right now to figure out how to share my screen. Not probably the most adept at making presentations like this. There we are. We're going to share screen. And we're going to share this one right here. And there you go. So what do we have here is the way that the mediator schedule is going to look. I say going, look right up here. It says the word beta. Probably everybody knows that before we release a software update, that is worked on by folks inside the organization. We do a lot of testing and a lot of consideration. We want to make sure that it's going to function appropriately. This is the latest rollout, and our expected date on this has been October 9, 2024. So we think it's going to launch tonight, despite there being some interruption from Hurricane Milton. But what this is going to show you is in the old days, you would look at a mediator's calendar. You would go to this calendar, click mediator, and then you'd put in the date range you were looking at. Oftentimes, that's the date today and you're looking at that 130 day trying to get with opposing counsel or opposing parties and find a date that'll work. And what this shows you now, instead of showing you when Miss Eric is booked, it shows you the dates. So this is showing, just as an example, back on April 15, 2024. Okay, those dates on April 15, if that's the date that you needed, you could see who had an available time and what time they had on that calendar. You could turn and you could look at, wow, lots of open spots, right? You could look at the 16th. And of course, there's a lot of open events on this because the calendar's back in April, May when we started doing the development of this. When you decide that that's the one you want, April 16th at 9 a.m. with Miss Eric, you can click on this little envelope right here, and that will spawn an email for you to reach out to Miss Eric and basically say, here we're on case number 25-01, and Miss Smith and Mr. Jones are contacting you to see if we could move the mediation currently scheduled for June 32nd to April 16, 2024 at 9 a.m. And that will help you to both expedite your looking. It will help you to communicate more readily, I think, with each other, and it will help you to communicate readily with the mediators to try to get things rescheduled. And we see this all the time. There's lots of rescheduling going on, but never more intensely than when we have something like this, Hurricane Milton come along or Hurricane Helene, and interrupt our sort of daily operations and what's normal. So I would encourage you to be prepared for that change and to look for it. I think it's a new tool that's going to be very helpful to you. And of course, there won't be all this many opportunities once the schedule is current, but you're going to be able to look for vacancies and I think get yourself sort of back on track better. Speaking of emergencies, if you're not familiar with the NOAA, and I've mentioned this on several broadcasts, the National Hurricane Center, NHC, if you put that in any browser, NOAA and then space NHC, you're going to rapidly get to this map that's going to show you what's going on in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico regarding hurricanes. And right there is Milton that we're expecting now. Milton is a monster storm, and you can get to the storm track and you can look at where it's going. They have been pointing Milton prediction to be right on Tampa Bay up here. Now we say it's kicked a little bit to the south. There's still time for that to move, but it sure does not look good for the folks in the Sarasota, Bradenton area. So again, my thoughts with all of you that are there. I've lived through more hurricanes than I would want to discuss. I know what you're going through, both in terms of pre-storm angst. I know what you're going to go through in terms of the post-storm recovery. I know what it does to you emotionally, and my thoughts are with you. I've hoped for all of you both safety, recovery, and the very best. But if you don't follow these storms, I think that you're missing an opportunity because this is going to tell you time and again where threats are. It's going to steer you to an appreciation of what may be happening in your neighborhood, and I suggest it for you. When that happens, what do we see in terms of warning you? If you go to the OJCC website, you'll see updates about what's going to be closed due to inclement weather, how long they're going to be closed, right? Orlando there, October 8th at noon through the 10th on Thursday. And so if you're wondering, is my hearing going to proceed? Are you wondering if the comp office in Miami is open? This is very easy to check. And I encourage you to check it because the last thing that we want is somebody struggling, traveling to get to a hearing that's not going to occur. Post-storm, during storm, pre-storm, roads can be dangerous. There can be problems and challenges, and we're trying to give you information to keep you from getting into a bad situation. The office is closed in Tampa today, does that mean all of the mediations on Tampa cases are canceled? It does not. The mediators are all over the state. Um, Gee, Judge, shouldn't it mean that the mediations are canceled? Okay, well, maybe. But the fact is that the mediators don't have the time, okay? Then they don't have the prescience to know that just because your office is in Fort Myers, that your office is necessarily closed, number one. Number two, just because your office is in Fort Myers, we have no way of knowing that you don't happen to telecommute to that office and that you're actually located in Saskatchewan, Canada. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but we've got some lawyers that practice law in Florida using virtual tools who aren't even based in the United States. They're living out of the country. We don't know what your abilities are. Okay, we don't know what your uh, impediments are when a storm like this threatens. So if you have a mediation scheduled, we need you to contact the mediator. I fully anticipate the mediators will be very lenient and accommodating with you when you call or you email and you say, by the way, I'm in such and such county. There's a court closure here. The comp office is closed here. My office is here, and I've got problems that I need to deal with. You don't have to tell us that you're evacuating or not. You don't have to tell us what your problems are. You have problems. You need accommodation. We need to reschedule this. Okay, we can work with that. But you on the mediation side, you need to tell us what's going on, and that's our hope in being able to try to help you. So, what else we've got in terms of storms? In terms of storms, my Zoom popped up on the screen. I apologize. The other thing that you can find readily on this page, our web page, is if you click on Order Search right here, and then click on Administrative Orders, whenever there's a problem, I'm going to issue an administrative order. That's not fair. Whenever there's a large problem that impacts lots of people, I'm going to enter an administrative order. So you can see that last spring when we had the tornadoes hit Tallahassee, there's an administrative order that says, here's what we're going to do about timelines. The same happened a couple weeks ago with Hurricane Helene. Um, I really, I really didn't like Helene, and I thought that she was going to be my least favorite of the season. Um, a lot of people were horribly, horribly impacted by that storm, but I've got a bad feeling in my pit of my stomach that that Milton's going to be worse. I'm hoping and praying that that's not true. But boy, if you're in the way of that Milton storm, again, you're in my thoughts. So what we do is we enter an administrative order. So in these, I lay out what is going on, okay, what's important, right? And I lay out that, for instance, any party needing relief as regarding a mediation on these dates, and the dates are going to be flexible. Why are there so many dates? Well, this is when the closures started happening, okay? And so we're trying to accommodate the audience. We're not saying we're canceling mediations. We're saying if you need relief, check these dates. So on this one, it says 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 of October. Then you can reschedule with the mediator over the next 60 days by December 6, 2024, without further order. Well, why, what does that mean without further order? I had somebody call me yesterday. They read this, they called me and said, what does that mean? I don't generally take calls like that, but we're trying to help folks in an emergency. Well, what does that mean? That means that you don't need a continuance order. You don't need a rescheduling order. You don't need any order for the mediator to be empowered. They're empowered by this to meet your scheduling needs, get your train back on the tracks, and hopefully when we get through to the other side of this horrible storm, we're all going to come back together as a community and we're going to get back to work on solving people's problems because that's what we do as a collective group. Reiterate that. You people that listen to things like this, you people that practice in workers' compensation on both sides of the table and in ancillary functions in terms of nursing and doctoring and all these different things. You really are trying to remediate and help people back from bad situations in their lives and provide an extent of recovery and an extent of remediation. And it's really important work. It's for important people who are the backbone of our society, people that are out there working every day. And so thank you for that, number one. And number two, understand that what our job is to get you back on track and get these cases moving again as rapidly as we can in the wake of one of these storms or another emergency or urgency. Um, and I apologize, I did not turn my phone off, so I'm going to make sure I put on Do Not Disturb so that doesn't do that again to us. My apologies. So these orders can be important, and then what? We'll cite the order. When you make a motion for relief with the assigned judge, you can cite the administrative order. When you're seeking relief, 60Q 6.115, you can cite these orders. And hopefully that helps you to move through and expedite other challenges or issues that you're facing. What else is there out there? From our homepage, okay, where you see those closures, if you click on the blog clip right here and click on announcements, you'll see that there's the first thing that'll come up is going to be the emergency that's ongoing right now. You can go back and look at what was going on with Helene. You can go back and look at other things that have been announced and things that are going on. This one's a pet project of mine, mediation history in Florida. I'm trying to get a list together of everybody that ever served as a state mediator. So if you know somebody that's not on that list, I'd sure love to hear from you. But here's the stuff on Milton. So it's showing you those closures. I know you're thinking this is repetitive of what's on the website. This is not, this blog is on a Google platform. And so when the power goes out on our servers in Tallahassee and that website may go down, the blog will not go down. It will be live and transmitting from I don't know where. Google's a big company with a lot of server farms. So I would encourage you to save this in your sort of favorites and know that it's someplace you can go back to anytime that you're curious about what we've got going on. Social media, we are all over social media and we're making announcements about what's going on. So right down here in the bottom corner of our web page, you see the information, right? So that's on Twitter. But the fact is that we are out there posting on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and you can search for and find us on literally any of those platforms. And we put out announcements of what offices are closing in any urgency. Hurricanes are a little different. You know they're coming, but what if we have something else happen? If you want to know what's going on with this office and you want to be apprised of changes and shifts, subscribing to follow us on one of these platforms sure does make a lot of sense. And on all of them, we are at FLJCC. So sort of group them together and just know that that's out there. If you don't know how to use social media and you'd like to follow us without being on social media, you can go to YouTube and just jump into YouTube and it'll go real slow apparently. And search for on your YouTube channel right here at FLJCC, and that's going to bring up our channel, our FLJCC channel right there, which you can subscribe to if you want to. All of these programs are on there, and there's a video on YouTube that tells you how to use social media right here, how to access FLJCC social media without having a social media account. So you can follow us without even having an account, and that's pretty handy. So know that that's out there. I hope you'll take advantage of that and use it to your benefit. So we mentioned the roundtable, November 5th, Orlando. Like to see you there. Um, Also, my congratulations and thanks out to Judge Kerr and the current section chair, Ms. Cullen. They have put together a meet and greet for law students down in Miami at the University of Miami School of Law. We're going to be down there on the 23rd of October, and we're going to be talking to them. I know you're probably thinking, why are we expending resources and time to go talk to law students? And the fact is, we'd like to see some of the best and the brightest understand that this is a really neat community to practice law in. When I say this community, I'm talking about workers' comp. And so what we're trying to do is reach out and talk to these students about why this is a great place to spend your professional life. And I would encourage you, if you have connections with any variety of higher education, whether you're talking about paralegal programs at junior colleges, whether you're talking about uh, any program at state colleges or universities, and you'd like to get somebody to come and talk to your class about workers' compensation, we'd be happy to try to facilitate that. We've got judges spread all over the state, mediators. We've got great lawyers in this community. And so you can reach out to me anytime and tell me that you've got some place that you think would benefit from that kind of a presentation. And we'll do our best to try to find somebody to come out and do a guest appearance at a business law class or a paralegal training class or whatever it might be to try to let people know why this is a sort of exciting and stable community to get into and spend your career. So again, thanks to Ms. Cullen and to Judge Kerr for putting that together at the University of Miami. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is predicate. Boy, we get a lot of questions about predicate and a lot of disagreement. In September, I was at the DOA Trial Academy. The Trial Academy is a program put on free of charge every year, and it helps lawyers to hone and improve their trial skills. And folks, trying a case is not easy, never has been, never will be. Anybody that tells you that it's easy probably doesn't know what they're doing, or you should really venerate them and put them up on a pedestal because they've reached a point where their skills really do mean that it's easy. Um, I've got something just short of 700 bench trials that I've presided over in my career, and I can tell you I've seen some lawyers try cases that sure did make it look easy. But I don't think that's a matter of DNA. I think that's a matter of practice, and I think it's a matter of persistence. Predicate. What do you have to do to get a piece of evidence before the judge? And you can translate that and talk about in the bigger, broader world, how do you get it in front of a jury? Predicate is the foundation. And so the foundation you have to lay is different for different things. Um, we're having a program in Orlando just next week, actually, where the OJCC Academy, not a trial academy, just the OJCC Academy, will have about 35 newer attorneys listening to some fantastic faculty folks talk about how to practice law. And they're going to spend time in their evidence program talking about predicate. So anytime you're talking about putting something in evidence, there's a document, you are liable to hear something about predicate, objection hearsay, objection authenticity. And so if you get that objection that it's hearsay, you need to lay the predicate, okay, to demonstrate either that it's not hearsay. In other words, I'm introducing this for some reason other than the truth of what's asserted. What would that be? Well, we want to put this letter in from Globe Life Insurance. Okay, objection hearsay. Well, Judge, I don't want to put it in because of what it says. I want to put it in because my client is going to explain to you why she thought it was important to fill out the papers she filled out before November 1st. And that's going to be because her mental impression, based on what this letter said, is important in this case. We don't care if November 1st was or wasn't the actual deadline. Okay, if that's what they care about, that's for the truth of matter asserted. But if they just want to get into evidence why the witness did what he or she did, well, then it's not hearsay. Judge, we're not introducing it for the truth. But for predicate, right? Something like a business record. Judge, it's a business record. Okay, well, then lay a predicate. Well, what's the predicate? You ask the witness, are you the custodian of records at XYZ? Yes, I am. Okay. Is it part of your job to maintain the records regarding what you do at XYZ? Yes, it is. Right. And let me show you this document. Do you recognize this document? I do. Is this document reasonably a reasonable manifestation of the documents that you actually have in your file? Yes, this is true and accurate copy, right? And is it part of your responsibility to maintain documents like this as a custodian of records? It is, right? And you build that predicate, and that's how you satisfy something like the hearsay exception, right? Section 6 in the evidence code uh, that says business records come into evidence. And you need to be able to lay that predicate. It's amazing how many lawyers don't know those questions to ask. There are books written out there that you can read. Judge Pitts, for those of you coming to the academy, Judge Pitts has got an excellent textbook that he's purchased that is nothing but predicates. It just sounds astounding. I haven't seen it, but it sounds like a really neat tool to have at your side if you're going to go try cases. Um, if you're not going to invest in a book like that, take the time to look at the evidence code and see what the business record exclusion requires. Right there in the exclusion, it'll tell you what questions to ask. Okay? Same for authenticity. Don't get yourself confused that authenticity and hearsay mean the same thing. They don't. Authenticity means this document is what you say it is. Okay? It's real. Hearsay is that it's satisfies one of those exceptions to come into evidence, right? So you often hear those objections together, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen lawyers only respond to one objection, and that's not going to get you home. Um, at the trial academy, we had disagreement amongst the judges, okay, regarding how you use a deposition or former testimony. It could be an affidavit, right, or deposition, testimony in another trial, how you use that to impeach a witness, okay? And we had lawyers that knew how to do it. We had some lawyers that didn't know how to do it. And then we were sort of confounded because it turns out we had some judges that didn't know how to do it. There is a proper way to do it. Um, Unfortunately, there's disagreement from the bench. And the lesson I want you to get from that is not that there are poor judges, okay? The fact is that judges see things differently. Judicial independence means you've got an absolute right for the judge to be wrong, okay? We're not perfect. We're no more perfect than anybody else. So your job is to learn how to do it properly. And then when you do it properly, if the judge disagrees with you, says, well, Mr. or Miss So-and-so, you can't do it that way, and you want to be prepared to back up and try it a different way, right? Uh, at the end of the day, your job is to get the job done at the hearing or at the trial. And so if the judge isn't letting you do it through door A, your job is to try door B, try door C until you get the job done. And that may trouble the judge. You may find the judge getting exasperated. I would hope not, but it can happen. And so you want to be prepared to try those different ways, or if you want, you'd like to be there with a copy of a book like the one Judge Pitts has purchased, or like a copy of a book like Professor Earhart's that spells out for you how you proceed and something you could cite to the judge and show him or her to try to get done what you need to get done. Know that judges are going to be different. That's just part of it. Another thing we discovered in that vein at the trial academy, some judges like opening statements. Some judges like closing arguments. Some judges don't. Um, so another piece that was sort of like that, the problem they gave the students this year was a matter where it was A versus B, but because of a statutory operation, B had the burden of proof in that trial. And so the quote unquote defendant or respondent had the burden of proof. And so I sat down in that room and I called the case and I said, petitioner ready to proceed? Yes, we are. I said, defense ready to proceed? Yes, we are. I said, okay, you know, prosecution or plaintiff, give me your opening statement. And they almost did. I got an objection from a team member that was back in the audience. She stood up. She said, I object. Uh, they had a little caucus and they explained to me, we don't have the burden of proof. We shouldn't go first. Well, that's a good point. No different than the idea of whether you're going to have a closing or an opening. The point of all that is that you, to try cases, have got to remain flexible. You've got to be prepared. You've got to understand that you probably know this case better than anybody else in the room. Okay? Opposing counsel may know it as well as you do. I almost can promise you that you know more about the case than the judge does. You know things that aren't even going to be introduced in evidence. You know things that aren't even relevant, perhaps. So you've got this big body of knowledge, and you're going to hone that down, and you're going to tell the judge what he or she needs to make the decision in the case, right? You cannot anticipate that the judge is going to be in a position to know what's best or not best. So you have to be prepared to make that work and to make it work uh, time and time again. So we're going to stop that screen share. I apologize. I had not noticed that was still going on. Anticipate, prepare, and be flexible. If you're not used to giving closings, you still ought to be able to sum the evidence up and tell the judge what's going on when you're done with your evidence. If you're not prepared, the judge calls on you for a closing and you don't have one prepared, there's never anything wrong with looking at the judge and saying, Your Honor, could I have a couple of minutes? Jot yourself some notes. What are the critical points? What does the case turn on from your perspective? Jot that down, give a quick opening. You can always precede it with an apology. Judge, I wasn't really prepared to give a closing, but here's what's important in this case. You need to look at this statute. Okay. You need to look at what the witness said this and the other witness said that. And that's why we prevail in this case, because that testimony supports the operation of this statute or this rule for the outcome that we want. And if that's all you've got for closing, that's a whole lot better than saying, Judge, I don't have an opening or I don't have a closing. Be prepared for anything and try to make it work. Um, Pretty important stuff. Pretty important stuff. The The last thing in terms of process and procedure, I noticed that almost nobody at the Trial Academy sought to use judicial notice. There's an entire evidence code section on judicial notice that will allow you uh, the shortcuts to put things in evidence without putting on a witness, without putting documents in evidence. If you've got something that's subject to judicial notice, why not ask for that? Okay, I know what you're thinking. Uh, what if the judge won't agree to it? Well, that's a potential. But the other point is, before you even get to judicial notice, if you've got something that is so patent that judicial notice will work, there's a pretty good chance in this community that opposing counsel is going to be willing to stipulate to it. Now you've got a stipulation, and there's a point you don't have to litigate, and you don't have to prove, and you don't have to worry about getting documents and evidence. We all can agree, okay, by stipulation, that the accident occurred on June 3rd of this particular year, and that was a Sunday. And now you've got questions you don't have to ask, right? And so that can be very helpful to you, but judicial notice is very, very rarely used effectively, and that's too bad. All right. So I want to turn back. We're doing pretty well on time. I want to turn back and just touch on a couple of other things about emergencies that I forgot to mention. So I'm going to push the screen back uh, and show you something else. So um, I'm logged into EJCC, and so this is our electronic filing package. Everybody's probably very familiar with this. What if the power goes out not where you are, but in Tallahassee? And we've had that happen. So if the power goes out in Tallahassee, we've got battery backup and we're going to stay live for a period of time. And then if they don't restore the power, um, we're gonna go dark. Now we've got backup generators. We've got other things that we can do, but that doesn't mean we're going to be back up in 10 minutes. Doesn't mean we're going to be back up in 10 hours. There's some work involved. And keep in mind when that storm hits Tallahassee, the team, the team members, the staff at the OJCC, well, they're suffering the same kind of challenges, trees down, power lines down, that anybody suffers in the wake of a storm like that. And so they've got to rectify their own challenges. They've got to get to the DeSoto building, the headquarters, and then they've got to work on getting us back up and functioning. You could be without connection to your EJCC for a period of hours, even in the best of circumstances. We hope it doesn't last days, but that could happen, has happened once. So, what can you get from EJCC to prepare yourself for a storm? Um, Number one, you ought to have all of what you're working on, all of your case files. You ought to have that backed up on a flash drive so that you can plug that into a laptop when you get where you're evacuating to. I know you think that that may be overkill, but you don't know how long after a storm it's going to take before you're let back into your own neighborhood. Um, we've all that live in Florida probably experienced that potential where um, we evacuate for the storm, we come back and we want to go to our house and the roads are closed or a bridge is closed or whatever it might be. Uh, they're trying to focus on storm recovery, the local officials, and their problems are many and varied. And our problem as practitioners or as parties are sort of more narrow, perhaps. And in fact, we're talking about this case or this problem, but we may not be able to get in there very rapidly. You need to back up your documents on a hard drive. Um, we're working on a way for you to do that off of the EJCC system a little more rapidly and more efficiently. I think before next hurricane season, we may have that, but for now, you can certainly do that off of the docket, and you can get your staff to do it. But how do you know what's on your calendar? When the system goes down, uh, right here, we've got your schedule. So you can click on My Info in EJCC and go to Schedule, and it's going to spin and think up here. And then it's asking me to log in again. We won't do that, but it's going to give you your schedule. Okay. Print that. I know you don't want to waste paper. I hear that all the time. Print that as a PDF. You can put it on your flash drive we were just talking about. And then you've got a copy of your schedule that's not dependent on electricity, right? And if you print it for a month in advance, you've got that in your go bag. Go bag. What's a go bag? If you go and use one of the search engines and look for the term go bag hurricane, you'll find lots of nice articles written about how you should be prepared for hurricane season. I would suggest to you that it'd be a very, very good idea to get in the habit of printing your calendar as a PDF the first of every month. You or your staff could go in on the first of every month and simply print a 30, 31-day calendar, okay? So that you have a hard copy. You print that out, put it on the flash drive. You keep the documents updated on the hard drive, on the flash drive. And then when the storm comes out of nowhere, like Milton has, we've had very little warning of this storm, folks. We didn't get weeks, okay? So you get very little warning. You know when you pull that hard drive, even though today's the 9th of October, you know that you've got your calendar printed as a PDF through Halloween. And so you're in a position to look and see, what have I got going on Monday? What have I got going next Wednesday, right? Yeah, you're in a position to reach out to other lawyers in the community, your opposing counsel, and work on things together, okay? And it gives you peace of mind. One of the most important things in any situation like this is you've got to manage your stress. And a great way to manage stress is yoga. Another great way to manage stress is information. And the more information you have readily at your fingertips, the more you can decrease your level of doubt and uncertainty. Usually, the less stress you will have and the more comfort you'll have. And you can look and see, well, I don't have anything at all on my calendar for Monday. I don't have to worry about anything but Milton this, Milton that, whatever it may be with the current storm. That will help you to move through. And you have no idea how much easier your life is today. Okay. It used to be those National Hurricane Center maps were not generally all that accurate at 3, 4, and 5 days out. They got very accurate as the storm got close, but we used to see those cones of uncertainty moving a lot. Those scientists have gotten very, very good at telling us when we need to get scared. Okay, that's wonderful. Um, when I evacuated from Hurricane Floyd, I know that'll date me. That's been a million years ago. But when I evacuated from Hurricane Floyd, I had to load my law firm into 2 vans. Okay. That was 2 vans full of computers and what we called red rope file folders full of manila folders and papers. We had all of our cases stacked in the back of these 2 vans. Okay. And we went running off from the storm. Today, you can do that with a flash drive. You can literally have terabytes of information on a simple little flash drive. And so you're evacuating off with your livelihood in your pocket or your computer bag, and you're in a pretty safe place in terms of proceeding with the litigation, getting on with the recovery and the remediation, and you're not spending a lot of time stacking paper in vans so that you can get yourself out of harm's way. I highly recommend it. That calendar is a big deal. We're working on a tool that would help you uh, archive off images from our docket so that you could do that on a periodic basis and keep yourself a little more managed and a little more comfortable avoiding those challenges and those problems. Um, Finally, uh, in terms of the office closures, I meant to reiterate and failed to. Rule 6.130 says that if the courthouse closes in the county that our office is in, we're going to close just like the courthouse. That works really well in Fort Myers because it's in Lee County. Works really well in Tampa because it's in Hillsborough County, right? It gets a little confusing when we're talking about Orlando because our Orlando district office is right on the county line between Seminole County and Orange County. And so persistently people ask, well, Orange is doing this, Seminole's doing that. What are we going to follow? That's why it's good to know you can look on our webpage or look on that blog and see what the closures look like. Um, generally, generally, we're going to follow what Orange County does in that setting. But look at the website, check the blog, and try to follow up. Look at social media. Social media, I know, in a lot of ways can be very distracting, troubling. Uh, a lot of stuff on there a lot of people don't like or wish was different. I get that. I'm not trying to turn you into a fan of social media, but I'm telling you there's some stuff on there that's pretty handy, and you can pick your platform and we're going to broadcast on those 4, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're going to broadcast what our closures look like. And then you can put a link to the announcement blog in your favorites on your phone, and you'll be able to get very quickly to what we've got going on. And we're going to do our best to keep you informed and advised. All right. I always hope there will be folks tune in and that there will be questions. We've got, of course, nobody tuning in today. Big distraction with Hurricane Milton. Once again, our thoughts and prayers go out to those people that are facing the landfall of the storm. Whether you're in the direct path or in the periphery, please focus today on your personal safety. Protection of life and limb, life and property is absolutely critical. Take care of you. There's going to be plenty in the post-storm time, I promise. Plenty of examples of people that need our help. Unfortunately, in storm recovery, we do see a fair number of workplace accidents and injuries. It's a difficult time. Take care of you first, and then you'll be in a position and a posture to help those that need assistance in the post-storm period. Um, my appreciation for you for downloading and enjoying this podcast. If you've got questions I can answer on future broadcasts, you can email those to me at david.langham@doah.state.fl.us. Reach out by email, reach out on social media. You can find me personally on Twitter. You can contact me through the links on the blog, however's best for you. We look forward to hearing from you, and that'll be all for today. Wish you the best.